Hey everyone, it's Luke. Um, so I'm going to talk about week 5 reading. First thing that I want to talk about is some things that came up for me while I was reading about Native American students. One of them is that I didn't really realize that the Native American community represents one of the smallest and most underrepresented student groups on campuses. And that's terrifying to me because from everything that I've read about colonialism, it like freaks me out that we've taken all this land from Native American communities and they're reaping none of these benefits that we have cultivated through European education systems. It amazes me that these cultural differences are so great that it keeps so many students out of higher education. And I wonder about why that is. I could grapple with ideas such as our education system is just not fit. It's just not congruent with their cultural lifestyle, and they don't see meaning behind it. I don't want to say they and other them, but I can't begin to grasp the difficulties that can go into some of these decisions, and it makes me really scared that this is a reality. So another thing that came up in the readings, it was a really brief comment, but it kind of impacted me in a big way, was that Native American communities are made up of many different tribes, and while I grew up being told that all my life, I never really understood what that meant as a child, and I think now that I heard it again, just in my adult life, that it's making a little bit more of an impact for me, that we like to lump Native Americans into this homogenous group, this homogenous category, and it invisibilizes so many unique cultures that make up this big umbrella term that's Native American. And I don't think I know nearly enough about any tribe in particular to be able to divulge on that farther, but it makes me want to learn more. When I read that, I realized that I need to know more about tribes around me, in the Corvallis area, in the Oregon area, in the Pacific Northwest. I need to know more about the cultures that are around me in my own environment, that I just am invisible. It's invisible to me, and that I'm really thankful that I read this chapter, because it kind of made things click for me that I still have a lot of work to do. One thing that they talked about was the model of the Jim Thorpe Multicultural Center, the GTMC, and I really liked how they laid out the four models of programming that they do. One thing that they talk about is the new student orientation model, and I kind of thought, like, what would that look like at the Pride Center? What are some things that I could take away and implement at my own cultural center, or my own resource center? And some things that I thought about were like we do the opening barbecue at the start of the year, but what about if we did like a guided tour of campus, being like, hey, these are friendly spots, these are resources that are available to you. I've seen some guided tours around campus before, and I thought, hey, why not make a queer one? And then another thing that they talk about is the retention programming, and I don't know what that looks like, but I want to, because I think one of the things that I've noticed through my time at the Pride Center is that we don't do a lot of programming targeted to promoting academic health, I guess. I would like to see some study times, or some tutors or mentors that come through the Pride Center. I think that would be pretty incredible. And I think that this week's reading gave me a lot to think about in preparation for next year. / this summer. So the next reading, the one from Students Helping Students, is invaluable to me. Last week's readings and this week's readings are incredible to me. They're blowing my mind. And I love the problem-solving models that they kind of lay out. I like that they break it down into easy things that you can remember to do when you're trying to help somebody. Last week I talked about like knowing your limit, and this week I enjoyed being able to figure out like when you're within your limit, what you can do. And establishing the problem is something that like I do subconsciously, and like I'm like, all right, let's do this. But I never vocalize what like I see that my point of the problem is, like what I see somebody coming to me with. And so I really enjoyed being able to see that and kind of reinforce within me that yes, that's something that I have to do. I have to, if I would like to benefit students, I can use this and increase that. The next thing was set a goal, and I'm not much of a goal verbalizer, and I think that's something that I should work on, because the way that they talked about it, it just sounded so incredible. You know, when you name something, and I do this in, like, we do this a lot in queer studies, is that when you name something, you make it visible, and you make it easier to comprehend, and you make it easier to grapple. And so I think that when we're helping students, if we can just like kind of name a goal and make it a positive goal instead of focusing on like the negative things, make it around something that's positive, it can be really beneficial. And I really liked that. One thing that I didn't like in this reading was the force field model. I thought that it was an interesting model, and I've never seen it before, but there were some things that I found problematic in that it kind of made it seem like each point was the same amount of, like, carried the same amount of weight. Like, each thing that propelled you towards your goal, like, carried as much merit and as much value as each thing keeping you back. And sometimes the things that are keeping you back, like, even if it's just one thing keeping you back, and you have 10 things that help propel you forward, that one thing is huge, and it's so detrimental, and it just keeps you from achieving what you want. And I feel like this reading didn't do that justice. And so when I was reading it, I was very critical of that, and I have to keep in mind that it doesn't matter, like, if you have 5 things propelling you forward and 5 things back, it could be one thing keeping you back, and that one thing is enough to keep you from achieving your goal. Or conversely, if you have, you can strive for greatness if you have one thing propelling you forward and 20 things keeping you back. That one thing can still help you get to that goal. It just depends on the severity of each side. The next thing that I really liked were the tips for problem solving outside of the box, and I love that term, outside of the box. Some things that really stuck out to me were fluency, which I was really confused about at first. When I first read fluency, I was like, well, none of us are very fluent, that's why we're reading this book. But I liked fluency because it was kind of talking about like, just keep talking, just keep divulging information, and eventually you'll find something. It's like, just throw everything out there, throw everything on the table, and then kind of pick out the good stuff, and then suspension of judgment. And I think that when we're trying to problem solve, a lot of times we are very critical about what we're saying, and that can keep us from really seeing the problem. And I know I do this all the time, where I'm like, no, that's a bad idea, and I keep myself from saying it. And maybe if it's a bad idea at the start, by vocalizing it, somebody or you can critique it and make it into a good idea. It could be the base point of something that fixes something else. Free association, and this is something that I think I do, is I just kind of, I don't vocalize it all the time, but I think about it all the time. I think about ways, I just like free flow information in my head, and I think that that's important to remember to do when you're trying to problem solve outside of the box. And artistic expression was one that I'm not very good at. I'm much more I'm not very artistic in in my daily life. I try to be. I try really hard to be, but I'm not. I'm much more logical. I'm very critical, and I think about ways that things logically fit together and make sense. And I think that artistic expression can it can go along those lines, but I think it kind of I think I took it as it's meant to help you explore outside of that, and I thought that was really important. Um, but that's my take on this week's reading. I just realized that I'm at 10 minutes, and that's incredible. So I'm sorry for keeping you all waiting for so long. I hope you all are having a great day, and I will see everyone on Friday. Bye!